I'll say that for the...
So you're telling a dwarf actor what he should feel? Having literally just lectured me about speaking for someone in the dwarf community, Warwick Davis, you now accuse a dwarf actor...
No, it's not what I said.
He's being a hypocrite. Who do I care? Connecting people with policy. Y'all, today's video is going to be beyond interesting, to say the least. But before we get into that, make sure you press that subscribe button, like, comment, share, turn on post notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video. And yeah, you know the drift. Follow me on my social media if you want to. If you don't, okay, cool, you're lost. Anywho, today's video that we're watching, it's an interview with Piers Morgan. When I tell you Piers Morgan, he's actually been like hitting with his interviews lately. Yeah, he's been on it. So this is titled Snow Woke's 7 Magical Creatures Backlash After Disney Ditches Dwarf Actors. I did not know a lot about it until I saw like the interview. So I was like, okay, let me do a reaction video on this. So essentially, I guess they're doing the remake of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, and they're not actually using dwarfs for the 7 Dwarfs. And so a lot of people had backlash about that, especially people who are dwarfs and actors itself, and their roles are already limited. So I guess they felt some type of way. And I did see a couple comments try to compare this to Little Mermaid, Mermaid being black and so forth. I just want to say that's comparing apples and oranges. I just want to put that out there. Halle playing Little Mermaid is nothing compared to dwarfs getting roles taken away, because one is like dwarfism, like you're actually like a dwarf trying to get a role that's meant for you, and one is like a princess. So there's no color on a princess, but there's no color on a princess, but there's like, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, but like it's not the same. But anyways, we're gonna go straight into the video, and yeah, let's see.
Joining me is Dylan Posel, who played Hornswoggle, the leprechaun, in WWE between 2006 and 2016, and by the podcaster and commentator James Barr. All right, James, you've got no problem with what Disney are doing. You think this is progressive and inclusive, and all those moaning about it should shut up?
Inclusiveness. Sometimes we try to be so inclusive, so much so that we're being exclusive. You get what I'm saying? Like, we want to be inclusive, but we're excluding those in our inclusivity, if that's the word. But sorry, let me go ahead and play it.
I think you should live in the 1930s, actually, Piers, because that's where you belong, really, listening to what you were just saying then. Also, I'm going to quote Warwick Davis, because he said he finds it patronising when people are offended on his behalf. And you've just spent a 5-minute monologue being offended on his behalf. And I think that's ridiculous.
Well, let me bring in Dylan, because Dylan is also offended, and he happens to be a dwarf actor. Dylan,
and I've got to say, I used to watch him in WWE. His name was Hornswoggle, and he was with I can't think of his name, but I'm gonna put his picture up. It's Irish. He's the Irish guy. He's like white. He would wear the green one piece. Fudge, I can't think of his name. But yeah, was it Heidenreich? Heidenreich, because he was with Heidenreich too. I'll put pictures up.
I was very curious when I saw what Peter Dinklage came out and said, because I did wonder who appointed him the head of the dwarf actor community. It turns out nobody did other than him. And the people who, it seems to me, have really suffered in all this are the 6 dwarf actors who would have expected to have roles in this remake in a massive Hollywood blockbuster, who are now not going to have that experience, or the money, or the fame that may have come with that. What is your response to that?
If you struggle with writing, you need to try this. I spend so much time reading and rereading the Science of...
So it's not a progression at all to me. My issue with it is exactly what you said. There are actors, dwarf actors, that that dream to be in a major motion picture such as this Disney remake. And now, because Peter Dinklage said what he said last year, now it's taken away. And it's taken away because of quote-unquote progression and all that. And it's not right, because these are roles made for actors of my stature, roles that aren't ever really given. I can't go out for the Harrison Ford or the George Clooney roles, because that's not for me. these dwarf roles are for people of my stature.
Right.
And now it's taken away. I don't feel that's right. And not only that, but now think about the additional stunt actors or body doubles or that. Now you're talking multiple actors of my stature that don't get these major roles. And why? What's the reasoning? Because we're supposed to be progressive and we're supposed to just not view them as that.
Well, you know
these
irony.
Were heroes.
The
all
irony.
of these dwarves,
Stop interrupting.
all of these dwarves took care of Snow White.
Right.
They all had characteristics, separate characteristics. They weren't these cave-dwelling.
That makes sense to me, though. Like, if you're going to do, like, specifically Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, then get 7 dwarfs to play the role. Like, that makes sense to me. Like, it's different if, like, they were only, like, obviously the dwarfs, they can be black, Asian, white, or whatever, because, like, that's different, in my opinion, as far as, like, someone's race and someone who actually has dwarfism. I don't know the official word. That's 2 separate conversations. But, like, just get 7 dwarfs from 7 different backgrounds or something. Like, I don't understand what the issue is. Like, they're talking about being inclusive, but you're excluding
monsters
with
that,
dwarfism.
that people speak of. It's they all had 7 different characteristics for 7 different actors that from my community, and I don't feel it's right that got taken away
completely
from us.
and utterly agree with you.
with
And the
Hornswoggle.
irony is that they profess these progressives to want to do this to protect you, right? They protect dwarf actors from being, somehow smeared, but you don't feel that way at all.
Peter Dinklage spoke up about.
I understand I'm progressive, but I'm a different type of progressive. Like, there's radical progressives and there's, like, independent progressives who just want, certain things to be done economically. But I'm not grouped in radical progressive. Just putting that out there.
About this. And that was my issue. He had in the past no issue cashing checks that were made for dwarf roles like Elf and all of that. Yes, he blew away the barriers when he did his roles that weren't necessarily made for a dwarf. But the Elf role was made for a dwarf. That check cleared just fine. So now that he's gone and done that, the progression of dwarf actors, it doesn't sit right with me.
No,
that this guy who is exactly what you said, what gave him the voice for all of our community?
Yeah,
Why?
I was honest. I think
a complete hypocrite. Let me bring James back in. So
when
James,
Piers Morgan is agreeing with you, I think you need to be concerned. I'll say that for the.
So you're telling a dwarf actor what he should
But
feel,
definitely
having literally just lectured me about speaking for someone in the dwarf community, Warwick Davis. You now accuse a dwarf actor.
I'm not. No, it's not what I said.
He's being a hypocrite. No, what's his name? James Barr. He's being a hypocrite. Like, what the heck? Piers Morgan caught him on that. Like, you can't. Hold on.
I said that if you're siding with anyone, you've got to worry. Right. What I'd like to say actually is that I kind of mostly agree with what you're saying.
And now sir, that's just taking a pot shot there.
No,
it
is absolutely taking a pot shot. But I do agree with what you're saying. I completely agree with your point of view, and I think that's really important. But I can only speak from my experience, and as a gay man, I know that growing up, I witnessed gay people being villains in movies when I was
7 dwarves aren't villains.
And that I think stereotypes are really important to
What stereotype
smash.
do you think
and
they
actually,
represent?
In the universe of Snow White, wouldn't it be better if dwarves
I don't feel this is...
The awkward silence.
This isn't a part of this about the stereotype.
Right.
This is about
reality.
roles that were made for people of my stature that don't have the chance.
Exactly. It's as a. Let me just play it. He's
chance to go out for other roles normally.
But you, James,
so
Barr,
why are we
you want to stop Dylan getting a role in a Hollywood film?
I am not going to get into an attack on a dwarf.
You don't want a dwarf actor to land a role playing a dwarf part.
Listen, a dwarf can play a dwarf part, but I think it's important to change narratives that don't fit in today's society. And really, it might be better. It might be better.
Why is it James's concern? That's my only thing. It's like people want to be fake deep so bad. Like, you want to be fake deep so bad. You think you're saying something, but you're saying nothing. Like, that's literally not fair for Hornswoggle. I grew up watching Hornswoggle, so I'm Team Hornswoggle. Stop playing with him. Be for real.
Just exist in normal roles everywhere because they do exist.
What was so bad about the way dwarves were depicted in Snow White? Have I missed something?
Well, listen, I'm not here to talk about...
That's what I'm kind of wondering as well.
I don't represent Disney, but I'm just saying I think I see their point of view.
What's their point of view? What was so bad about the depiction of the dwarves?
Why are you so upset about a movie changing with the times and moving forward?
Because I think that, honestly, with great respect...
there is real news we could be discussing.
No, but this is real news if you're a dwarf actor.
You see how he just downplayed it? Because he has no substance for his argument. Like, that's not right. Like, even though it doesn't even affect me, I'm not an actor nor am I a dwarf, but like I can 100% see where Hornswoggle, I'm sorry, I don't know his full name, his actual full name. Oh, it doesn't say it. But I can 100% see what Hornswoggle is saying. He's like, yo, that is not fair. Y'all going above and beyond to wanting to be inclusive to find other people to play 7 dwarfs when you could just literally just get 7 dwarfs or 7 actor dwarfs to do it. Like, he's not asking for much.
What? Because of virtue signaling idiots.
But you're just
who think that everything has to be rewritten to be inclusive.
Dylan as a cheap
when in fact it's not inclusive at all.
No, you're using Dylan as a cheap shot to attack a Wokey.
I don't think Dylan feels I'm using him as a cheap shot. And what I would say about the Wokey thing is this. I have spent the last year listening to people tell me only gay actors should play gay parts. Only Welsh actors, so Michael Sheen, should play Welsh characters. And so on, and so on, and so on. But the moment we have dwarf roles, which are the most famous dwarf roles in Hollywood history, then the only people apparently who can't play them are dwarf actors. And I see that.
About stuff like this, context always matters, like 110%, because like, when we look at, specifically in this situation, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, I 100% agree that if we're going to find 7 Dwarfs, why go above and beyond and find 7 different people and do the edits to make them smaller and this and that when you could just literally find 7 Dwarfs in that field? And a main thing why I say this is not the same as like the mermaid situation, how people were getting backlash at Halle for being Ariel, and Ariel's white or whatever, because I see like him being dwarf and someone's race is completely different. The context of Little Mermaid, you have to realize if we were to only recreate like Disney princesses based off of like the same color skin, the same color hair, and this and the third, like that already marginalizes a certain group already, because we only have like one black princess, or Princess Tiana. Yeah, Princess Tiana is like the only black princess. So like that's why I'm saying context actually matters, and that's why I see two, like Halle's situation and this are 2 separate things. Like I think we are trying to do too much, trying to be inclusive, get all these people, you know, be the dwarf and this and the third, do the edits, invest this amount of money in like animation and this and the third, when you could really, when they're literally right in front of us. Be for real.
Cartoon, Piers.
Woke hypocrisy.
It has not changed. It was a cartoon. Those weren't actually dwarfs in the movie. They were drawn, okay? So firstly,
they were drawn as dwarfs.
No,
they are.
It's a story called dwarfs.
It was drawn, but the movie, the movie is called Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. They specifically added dwarfs to make
a story about
dwarves. They shouldn't be called dwarves.
No, they should be called people with dwarfism.
They shouldn't be called.
What's wrong with being called dwarves?
Nothing, but that's not the correct
That's the story.
Dylan, apparently you're not allowed to call yourself
dwarf.
Apparently, Dylan, you're not allowed to call yourself dwarfs. Apparently.
I would love to hear, what should I call myself, sir?
I think you should call yourself whatever you feel comfortable
with. But you just said they shouldn't
as a person.
He calls himself a dwarf.
That's great.
A dwarf.
Good for you. I'm happy.
So now, sir, let me pause that. So it shouldn't be called.
This is what happens when you don't really believe the words coming out of your mouth. You become tongue tangled. You're just like, well, I don't believe they should be called people of dwarfism. And he was like, dude, I'm a dwarf. Like,
Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.
Listen, I do not want to get cancelled because I think your point of view is more important than mine right now. But what I'm annoyed about is Piers trying to take a cheap shot at someone that believes in society moving forward.
Yeah, I'm actually exposing the hypocrisy of the woke mentality of only gay people can play gay parts, only trans actors can play trans parts, and so on and so on and so on.
I think we want to get to a place where everyone can play
Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs.
I agree. me personally, I agree with that. The only thing that I don't agree is just the race well, not the race portion. Like, that's why I say context matters, because like if it's a movie about like someone who is trans and so forth, common sense would be, okay, let me go out and look for a trans actor. You know what I'm saying? Or if it's somebody, I don't know, because it's very complex. But this particular scenario, I agree with Hornswoggle, like I said before. But not everything is just as black and white as his situation. I have to add that, though.
To be cancelled because you're not allowed to have dwarf actors.
You should be happy, Piers, because it means that now you can play your dream role of Grumpy.
I would love to play Grumpy. I loved all the dwarves in that movie. They were great. Let me ask you,
you're being a hypocrite. You'd love to play Grumpy, but you're taking a role away from a dwarf actor.
The issue at hand...
No, I would play a fully grown Grump, quite happily.
By taking away a role from a dwarf.
Let me ask you, Dylan, about
Where's
the Hugh Grant playing an Oompa Loompa, because again, it seems to me... we've got a clip of him playing an Oompa Loompa. Let's have a look at this.
I'm so tired of this.
Well, I know
his name's Dylan, not Hornswoggle. My apologies, y'all.
You're the funny little man who's been following me.
I will have you know that I am a perfectly respectable size for an Oompa Loompa.
An Oompa what now?
Allow me to refresh your memory.
Oh, I don't think I want to hear that.
Too late. I've started dancing now.
Is he a full-size
Once we've started, we can't stop.
Did they just edit him?
Funny little man who's been following me.
Now, they use CGI there, Dylan, to effectively make him into an Oompa Loompa dwarf.
So now...
what do you feel about that?
Yes, sir. So now we're not only using CGI and spending extra money and funding for these movies when we could just cast dwarves in that role. Whether it be one dwarf or multiple.
Am I missing something? Like, he's not asking for much.
Like they have been in the past. Now you're taking at least one role away or multiple roles away
like you spent
for
all this money
Oompa Loompa characters.
Trying to make someone look like a dwarf when you
that's
just
what
hired
they
a good
were in the
dwarf
past.
actor.
And why, again, I go back to my stance on these roles in Hollywood in general are very hard for people of my community to get, besides the elf and the leprechaun and this and that. So why are they being taken from my community? That's my issue here.
Well,
it's
you know why? You know why, Dylan?
Stereotypes.
You know why? Because people like James here, they think it's progressive and inclusive. When in fact it's regressive.
Those are not my words.
It's regressive and exclusive.
They are your words,
Piers.
Dylan.
Piers, I will agree with the mindset of it's not right. I don't know. James seems to be in partial agreement with me on the dwarf actors and the roles with that these should be. But I don't. On the other stuff, I can't speak on that. Obviously, I'm focused fully on the dwarf community really losing roles in these films.
Yeah, I think James started
with all the SAG strikes, with all the writer strikes.
Yeah,
and the actors
is an instigator. He's funny though, but he an instigator.
I do agree with you, and I think all I'm trying to say is that I think it's a nuanced conversation, and there's a few different points of view that are valid. And ultimately, in my experience as a gay man, the reason we're upset about gay people not getting gay roles in movies is because we're not getting straight roles as well. And until we are, it's unfair.
That's the same thing with him, though. Like, he's saying as a dwarf, he's not getting movie roles that are meant for people taller than the average height human being. And he's not getting roles that are meant for him. So it's the same thing. What are you saying, James? Those
roles are taken away from us. So in that respect...
What's that got to do with dwarf actors? Because they can't play regular-sized parts.
I think Peter Dinklage's original point is that he would like to see more dwarves in films in general, not just playing dwarfs.
In general. Literally, I should... A person of my stature should be able to go out for the same as a 6'5", 200-pound human, but it's to
a certain extent, because if a movie is calling for like someone to play like the Incredible Hulk or something of that nature, just as an example, they're gonna look for someone of that stature. So like, yes, in a perfect world, you should be able to have the same opportunity as that man who is 6'5", 250 pounds or whatever for Incredible Hulk. But in reality, for the movie, they're looking for someone of that stature and of that height. The same way with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They should be looking for dwarfs, i.e. him.
just not that way. And I'm okay with that. In reality, I'm okay with that. It's understandable to me. But when it's these roles that are made for people of my stature, that's where I have the issue.
You know what, Dylan? The movie, one of the great movies of all time,
Look how James is
Snow
looking at
White
him.
and the Seven Dwarfs.
He looks so disgusted.
If dwarf
He's like,
actors in Hollywood
I
are
don't like
not
you.
picked to play those roles, I don't know what roles you're supposed to be playing. It's unbelievably patronising that they've done this under the banner of so-called progression.
It's the fact that Piers is acting like he actually cares. Piers is just trying to push his agenda. Like, even though Piers is right and Dylan is right, Piers is using Dylan to push his agenda and make these talking points. But Piers is funny.
And it's not, again, like I said, these dwarves in that movie or in this story aren't viewed poorly, I don't believe. No. They're all separate characters that are actually heroes for this lady.
Yes.
And they take care and they take this lady in.
They save
her.
So
they're viewed so well to society.
They saved the woman.
Now
they're hardworking, they're wealthy, they are kind, they are generous-hearted. It's hard to think of a more positive narrative about any people at all.
Well, let's just go back to the 1930s, Piers. I think you'd be happy
You know what, James?
Blackface would exist still.
No, it's not blackface.
James,
it's not blackface. And what you're now doing, because you know you've lost the argument.
No, there's no argument.
And you know you've been
You're
embarrassed by the argument.
You're not embarrassed.
You are
embarrassed.
You just said
an argument that doesn't
hold
exist.
Hold on, guys.
We agree with each other.
Please.
All right. You know what? You do agree with him now because you realise the futility of your argument.
James, you can't go, oh, you got to go back to 1930s. No, James, if you agree with what I'm saying,
I agree with what you're saying. I don't agree with anything that Piers.
Yeah, here's the thing, Dylan. Dylan, just to be clear.
He literally just said what I said, James.
Dylan, just to be clear, he doesn't agree when I say it, but when you say it, he agrees.
Because you're not a dwarf.
That right now, I'm not a dwarf, no. But that right there is the hypocrisy of the woke brigade. Dylan,
okay. So let me
just say, Dylan, I've got to let you go, unfortunately.
Real quickly, please. Piers, quickly.
Final word, Dylan.
Piers, James, let me ask you this. So if a writer writes a piece on what I'm saying, is it wrong of them? Because essentially, that's the same as the words coming out of my mouth.
What? Yeah, but you're not saying that I am a woke hypocrite, and Piers is, and that's what I disagree with.
No.
Because I'm absolutely not.
So
when I'm saying that I disagree with Piers, it's nothing to do with your...
We'll leave it there. Just to be clear, Dylan, he disagrees with what I say, but when you say exactly the same thing, he completely agrees with it.
You're
and that
so annoying.
is James Barr, right to a T. Dylan,
nonsense.
Fantastic having you on Piers Morgan Uncensored. You did such a brilliant job in highlighting why this is so ridiculous. Shame on Disney, and I hope you get another brilliant role very soon. I really do.
Well, I hope so too, and I hope that this really kind of resounds with how I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't speak for the whole dwarf culture and community, but this is literally
Piers
how I feel.
Piers Morgan speaks for the entire dwarf community.
I've got to leave it there, Dylan.
He speaks for all of you.
Thank you, Dylan, for joining me. James,
that's helpful, I think.
Thank you for joining me because
you're so welcome.
You came on and you beautifully highlighted the
hypocrisy
of
culture
of your culture.
Absolutely.
Yo, he's actually funny. This was actually funny. Let me turn this off. It's just so funny sometimes when you see what makes the news. But honestly, like how I said before, I actually agree with Dylan and Piers in this instance, even though Piers was essentially using Dylan to be an instigator and to push his agenda. But I feel like sometimes we overcomplicate things. It's not that deep to me. Like sometimes something that I notice within wokeness or radical lefts, they want to be deep so bad, like how I said before, they want to be so inclusive, so much so that they're contradicting themselves. They're living in a contradiction, and they're being the people that they don't want to be, that they were trying to prevent others from being, by being exclusive, by excluding certain groups out, and by being, I don't know, it's just a lot. But let me know your thoughts on the comments down below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you're notified when I post a new video. Follow me on my social media. Until next time, this is Uduak, connecting people with policy.